Hi guys, Mark Foreman here, and I'm coming to you from my wood shop in my backyard in Orange, Texas. Today we're going to do something that is not woodworking related at all. Electroplating. As you know, we're working on that abandoned armoire, and I am down to deciding what I'm going to do with the hinges. Well, what I'm going to do is copper plate them. I think it would make a nice look rather than the dull, mottled, rusty color they are now. So, in getting ready to plate them, I've been practicing with electroplating. And I've done some neat things. I have copper plated a $50, which is kind of cool. And by the way, someone asked me, isn't that defacing U.S. currency? Well, I looked it up, and you can do whatever you feel you want to do to U.S. currency as long as it's not meant to defraud. For example, I couldn't go try to sell this as some rare misprint or press or whatever as a very valuable coin. That's fraud. But I can paint them, plate them, whatever. It's my money. So, anyway, I am going to do a larger test now than my coins. I am going to take this antimatter containment cylinder, which is stainless steel, and I'm going to copper plate it. In order to copper plate stainless steel, you must first do what's called a nickel strike. So, what I have here in front of you is all the chemicals that I needed to make my nickel bath and my copper bath. I have acetone, hydrochloric acid, sulfuric acid, root killer, which is 99% copper sulfate pentahydrate. Pick that up at your local hardware store. So, while I disassemble this stainless steel antimatter containment cylinder, I'm going to let you watch a video on how I made my nickel bath solution and my copper bath solution. So let me get to taking this apart. Enjoy the how-to. But first, a disclaimer. I don't know what I'm doing. Everything you're going to watch, I learned on YouTube. So this is not meant as an instructional video. This is not meant for you to go out and try to plate things yourself. Like I said, I have no idea what I'm doing. So do not follow my instructions and try this yourself. I am going to safety up. I have my protective gloves. I have eye protection. And I have a water hose outside ready to wash me down should I spill any of this on me. Because these are acids. Sulfuric acid, that's battery acid. So there's my disclaimer. So enjoy the videos. I'm going to get this taken apart, and I'll be right back. Let's make some more nickel chloride, NiCl2. Start with distilled water. Clean out this bit. All right, so we need 1.8 liters or 1,800 milliliters. There's a liter. 1,500. 1.8 liters. The only other ingredient is hydrochloric acid. 200 milliliters of HCl, also known as muriatic acid. All right. Where is my little stir pill? Get that to stirring. So now let's put our anode and our cathode in, which is going to be nickel. So what'll happen is the anode will completely dissolve into solution. So this is where the nickel comes from. Bonds with the chlorine in the HCl, makes nickel chloride, and the hydrogen escapes. There. This one right there. Okay, let's turn on the voltage and do some electrolysis. Turning on my power supply. Now I want to have it less than about an amp. So let's dial it down. Let's start with 0.5. So we're running 0.5 amps, which at this point right now, that means 0.8 volts. Not a lot. It's because there's so much hydrochloric acid in there. And you'll see that the bubbling has already begun. Now we're going to make our copper plating solution. There are two main ingredients. They are sulfuric acid, which is battery acid, and there is copper sulfate pentahydrate. This is root kill. It's meant for cleaning out septic tanks and such, kills all the roots, dissolves all the roots in the pipes and whatnot. It is 99% copper sulfate pentahydrate. So my limiting ingredient is the sulfuric acid. I wanted to make about 8 liters, but because I only have 0.94 liters of sulfuric acid, doing the math and everything, that comes out to I can make about 7.1 liters of my copper solution. So, again, given 0.94 liters of battery acid, that means I need 1,513 grams of this stuff, 1.5 kilograms. So let's go ahead and dump some water in there first. And I'm going on the idea that this is accurate. Distilled water, 3.78 liters. So we'll dump all of this. I'm going to dissolve my copper sulfate first before I add the sulfuric acid. Okay, there's 3.78 liters. 1,513 grams. Okay, there's 600. Start my stirrer. Another 400 gives us 1,000. So I need another 513. Okay. All right. Watch it stir. Here's my stirring rod. I'll help it out.
Okay, so it took about a half hour for all of the copper sulfate pentahydrate to dissolve into distilled water. So now it's just a copper sulfate distilled water solution. Next ingredient is the sulfuric acid, battery acid. I'm going to use the entire bottle, 940 milliliters. I'm going to pour it in real slow. All right. Now I need to fill it up to the 7.1 liter level, and I had already marked that, so I know where that is. Right there. So what that gives us is a solution. 7.1 liters has 1.513 kilograms of root kill, 940 milliliters sulfuric acid. So that gives us a concentration of 210 grams of copper sulfate per liter and 60 grams per liter of sulfuric acid. Supposedly, that is a good ratio to have for copper plating. So I'm going to let that all stir up, and then I'm going to try to copper plate a coin, see how it looks. First step is to plate it in nickel. So let me get my nickel electrolysis system set up. I'm going to use 2 anodes of 99.4% pure nickel. Need to clean those up. Start with some soap and water, and then into some distilled water. Get some of the soapiness off. All right. Little 10% hydrochloric bath. Some more distilled water. Get the hydrochloric acid off. And then into the bath. I'm going to use 2 anodes so that I'm sure I get a good coverage. Now for the cathode is going to be our object. So I'm going to hang a steel bar that it can hang from. So let's attach our leads. Positive goes to the anodes, and negative to the cathode. Now let's clean our object. I'm going to hang it from a piece of copper. And then we're going to acid activate it in our hydrochloric acid solution for about 2 minutes. Let that sit there. Okay, and then straight into distilled water for about a minute. Now when I take it out, it has to go straight into the bath. That's good. All right, let's turn on the juice. Voltage does not matter. It's the amps. And I need to hit it pretty hard at 10 amps, which is the max that my little power supply here put out. So we need to do about 4 minutes. Check out the bubbling. All right, I went ahead and went 5 minutes. So now I need to take it out of my sulfur solution into distilled water for a couple of minutes. And during that couple of minutes, I have to change out my nickel solution for my copper solution. So let's do that. Turn off the power. Into distilled water. And I can tell it's kind of a dull silver now. Okay. Directly into my copper bath. So we need about, according to the surface area, it's all about area, amps per square foot. So I've already calculated all this business. We've got about 0.28 square feet. So that comes out to 5.7 amps. So turn on our power. Dial down the amperage first. We need 5.7 amps. There we go. And this will cook for about 45 minutes. So I'll come back in about 45 minutes. Well, it's been 45 minutes, so let's take it out and see how it looks. Turn off the voltage. Disconnect all my leads. Check it out. All right, dump it into distilled water. Let it neutralize the acid. Leave it in there for a couple of minutes. This is what we have. So I'm going to let it sit here and air dry. See how we did. So let's see what we got here. Remember, this is what it looked like originally. Just going to use a clean paper towel. Just gently rub off some of this excess. So let's take it over to the buffer and see how that looks. So what do you think about my electroplating skills? I think I've got a lot to learn. But it's fun. This is what we came up with in our attempt to copper plate our antimatter containment chamber. Not as shiny as my coins, but it's a learning process. This was stainless steel, so I kind of bit off more than I could chew for my first real object. Well, we're going to go ahead and move on. We're going to copper plate the hinges. Stay tuned. The next episode, we're going to plate these for real and finish up on the doors. See you next time.